Hello everyone and welcome back to Smogon U. This is Gold Mason, joined by Excal. We're here to commentate an SPL game today. It is Ladybug versus Void, and Excal has some thoughts on these battlers. I'll let him take it away.
Absolutely. So just to introduce myself, I'm Excal. I've been playing DPP for over a decade. Joined Smogon around getting close to 7 years ago. Member of the DPP Council. Been playing this tier since I started on here. So I've got a lot of years of experience of spectating DPP games, playing the tier, building the tier, etc. You might have seen me on some of BKC and Poke Games videos with random teams or debating DPP policy as you know it. So I'm going to introduce Void and Ladybug, who are two players that I've known about for a long time. First, on the left, we have Ladybug, who is 42 and 31 on the sheet for official tournaments, and I think he's mainly played SPL, so he is known as a very accomplished battler. Particularly in DPP, has made some really iconic DPP teams, like a famous Hailstall that I think was made in 2010, so it's been a very long time. And speaking of that, he actually has not played DPP in SPL in many years, so this is his first tournament back, and no one has really seen him play the tier or any tier officially in SPL since then. He signed up last year and even went undrafted because no one really thought that someone who has not played for so long would be a viable choice out of so many people signing up to be one of the 10 starters, especially from the get-go. But obviously still a very accomplished player and clearly has the potential to have a really good SPL based on his past results. So that was kind of the faith that was put into him as someone who hasn't really been around for the past several years of DPP. And on the right is Void, the other guy. He went 9-0 last year, which has been completely unheard of for DPP, a tier seen as a bit more volatile and difficult to have really consistent records in than other tiers. He is 44 and 41 on the sheet, has played other tiers like ADV, has not had as much success as DPP. He is known to build or play with the building of Osgood, who is a known DPP builder and metagamer. Kind of in the shadows, doesn't really play tournaments a lot himself, but seemingly without playing for any other time except for SPL, he is able to just come up with builds and completely change the metagame as we know it and come up with a lot of new stuff. Personally, I rate him as one of the best, if not the best, DPP team builder, and a lot of Void's success while he played super duper well in a lot of his games and executed very well. Definitely can attribute a lot of his success to Osgood's building and support in his teams. So going into this, Void is definitely extremely favored over Ladybug. Almost everyone in the Smogon prediction tournament was favoring Void in this match. So it was, even me personally, I did not think it would be very likely for Ladybug to win this game, given he hasn't played in a very long time. It was probably not that likely, to me at least, that he would bring a team that would be as effective for this matchup as the one that Void would bring. And I figured that Void would execute solidly enough to give him significant favor in this match.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that breakdown. I have actually never heard of Ladybug. I'm pretty new to the DPP scene, but I obviously am a huge fan of Void's, as you know. So excited to get into this match, though, and see how the battle unfolds. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, of course. So Ladybug leading Starmie and Void leading Hippo. You should just pause actually at the first turn, if possible. Just kind of go play by play. So I'll talk about this lead matchup real quick. This is obviously a very unfavorable lead matchup for Void. Hippowdon is actually a pretty passive lead. It can end up having really good upside because you get sand up from the get-go, which can, over the course of the battle, chip at the opponent's team, anything that's not sand immune, puts a lot of stuff on a timer immediately without having to start sand up later in the match, which can be really effective for a slower, more defensive team. Usually when you see Hippowdon lead, it indicates that you are facing something pretty defensive with Pokemon like Jirachi, Clefable, Skarmory, Latias, etc. So that's kind of what you'd expect to see. When you see Hippowdon lead, there's obviously several different variations from a Hippo lead team. but that's kind of what you should be expecting if you're more seasoned in the tier. And Starmie is a pretty interesting lead. Has a lot of different things it can do. The speed tier is really useful to mess with leads like Azel. It's a strong water attacker, and most commonly in the lead spot, you're going to see it as Choice Specs. And Choice Spec Starmie is pretty effective at disrupting stall, especially Hippowdon, because usually Hippowdon is not paired with something to take a trick, like, Tyranitar in the back to punish a trick or something like that. So oftentimes this is a really uncomfortable position, and Starmie usually opts to click Trick to immediately cripple a defensive Pokemon from the get-go. So this is definitely not the lead that Void wanted to see, and we'll see how he responds to it.
Yep. And it looks like he does switch to Latias immediately to take that Hydro Pump.
Yeah, and that does a lot of damage. 30% to a Latias, which is a bulky Latias, is a ton of damage. That immediately indicates Choice Specs. And usually what you'd see with Spec Starmie like that is something like Choice Band Tyranitar, because these defensive stall teams do not really pack water resists outside of Latias. So it's really nice to telegraph a potential trap with Tyranitar, get that in for free. And if he wants to go to Clefable or something like that as some sort of mid-ground, Tyranitar is usually a good one to cover. Bonus points if you're able to fit Choice Band Tyranitar, although that comes with its own deficits. So seeing both Choice Spec Starmie and potentially that, we'll see what Ladybug actually switches into, but that's already spending a lot of your resources on your team trying to cover a defensive matchup. So far it seems like Ladybug might be coming prepared for what Void has brought, but we'll have to see how that turns out.
Absolutely, and there's that Tyranitar you were talking about. Gets Toxic.
Yep, and there's Toxic. Yeah, that is a pretty unique option on Latias. Usually they go for Thunder Wave, Reflect, Dragon Pulse, and Recover. Try to use Reflect to circumvent a Pursuit Trap. Use Thunder Wave to slow down the offensive team and, set up for, Clefable knocking the team off and removing the leftovers, and Jirachi winning over, a shorter period of time. But Toxic is a unique option to directly start, wearing down Tyranitar. Could be setting up for something like Calm Mind Clefable, which can't damage Tyranitar as effectively with its, Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, as opposed to like knocking off and Seismic Toss. So, this is probably supporting some sort of win condition in the back that wants Tyranitar poisoned and crippled long term. So pretty good for Void to land that as early as turn 2.
Yeah, and means that Latias can maybe survive with this Reflect coming up the next turn.
Yeah, it's uncertain, if Ladybug's actually Choice Band Tyranitar, but seeing that damage there, it clearly is more powerful than your standard, like Jolly Dragon Dance Tyranitar. So this is definitely Choice Band crunch damage. So Void is probably not going to be able to heal Latias any more than 18%. So that's a lot of chip on what is likely the only water resist Void has. And there's a Spec Starmie in the back, so this is already looking like a great start for Ladybug.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see... Latias does survive.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good play by Void to go Hippo. He should be able to get his Rocks up or Earthquake, the Starmie that might come in. He's going to go for one of those two options, and obviously Tyranitar is forced out now. He traded some damage on his Tyranitar to make Latias go low, so this is still probably a favorable opening for Ladybug. But Void is probably going to get his Rocks up now, so we'll see how Ladybug responds to the potential Stealth Rocks here.
Goes to Breloom. I think that's a fine switch in.
Interesting. So it looks like Void was going to Clefable here because he wanted to cover the Starmie that was going to come in and, not let it get more tempo because he would just have to sack Latias. So he realized that, getting Stealth Rocks up for Starmie is not going to be, make that much progress. But Ladybug does a really good play, and instead of going to Starmie, covers the Hippo and covers the potential, Clefable to defend against that Starmie. A little risky if Latias for some reason came in as a sacrifice or something like that. Or double, but that probably wasn't going to happen. So this was just a really good heads-up play by Ladybug to punish the Clef and cover Hippo, Earthquaking or Stealth Rocking. So great play for Ladybug.
And is there a chance that this Clefable can do something with the Reflect, or are we going to see Breloom force it out?
Probably Breloom forces this thing out because, Clefable really doesn't want to take a Spore. Depending on the damage from a potential superpower or something like that, Void probably wants to put Latios to sleep here so that he can use like Skarm or Jirachi or something. The big issue with Breloom is like, who do you sack to sleep? And obviously, with the 18% Latios, that's definitely what Void is looking to get spored, as opposed to Clefable, which is his only other response to Starmie, or Hippowdon, which hasn't even gotten rocks up yet, and is the defensive answer to T-Tar. So it's going to be a tough position for Void. We'll see, if he goes Latios on Spore or if Ladybug calls it out.
Does look like he's, yep. Does let it take the Spore, and that Latios is probably going to be out of commission the rest of the game then.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the best that Void could have done there. He needed to let that sleep. And there's the Gliscor, which is a nice defensive answer to Breloom because, it's a defensive answer that is not like trappable by Choice Band Tyranitar, unlike Latios. So this Gliscor could be pretty good in a matchup with, Starmie, Tyranitar, and Breloom. It's probably a more grounded team, and Breloom is likely to ground resist. So inherently, teams like this are going to have some trouble with Gliscor if the game goes on too long, and depending on what the set is.
Yeah, an SD set would be kind of brutal. Or a double dance, maybe?
Yeah, double dance doesn't really exist, but SD certainly does, and it could be a pretty threatening set to this team from what I've seen already. So we'll see what it uses. Interesting. Okay, so Celebi is really not common paired with Breloom. Usually you don't have room for two grass types, but Celebi is pretty difficult for Gliscor to damage. Can use Hidden Power Ice, can use disruptive moves, Leaf Storm. This could also be Ladybug's Stealth Rock user because we haven't really seen him have one so far. But either way, having that sturdy ground resistant Celebi is going to prove troublesome for Void as he's got a double ground core here, and Gliscor is not going to be able to make it past Celebi right now. So Void's probably going to have to switch out to Clefable. Oh, that was a nice call out by Ladybug, doubling in the Tyranitar to facilitate a trap on Clefable. Now, Void is really... Okay, so we've already seen now that Ladybug got the pursuit, but Void could have potentially called that pursuit out and made an aggressive stay-in. I mean, Void's pretty behind right now, so, I probably would have considered to honestly just stay in and try to call out that pursuit. But Ladybug got the play correct, and now Clefable is really low. Starmie is looking menacing right now with Latios so low, and Clefable more than in range to die to Hydro Pump.
Yeah, and double ground already, so Starmie Hydro Pumps might just run over this team. But we'll see if Void can bring it back. I mean, Clefable could eventually make it in and get that soft boiled off.
Yeah, interesting that he goes to Gliscor instead of Hippowdon. I guess he really sees Hippowdon as dead weight and, a momentum sink, and it doesn't even seem like Void feels comfortable getting Stealth Rocks up, so Ladybug has free range to just do whatever switch he wants, Maybe he's going to try to use this Wish Jirachi, which it probably is Wish, with the slower Gliscor composition, to heal up, Latios, Clefable, not let Starmie in. He's probably really conscious of that, so Void is really playing with not many options here. And revealing this Jirachi means that his last is most likely a Magnezone or a Magneton, because he needs some speed control here. He can't use a team that's super slow. And Magnezone and Magneton can trap Skarmory, among other steel types, to really facilitate Gliscor and Jirachi. So that's probably what Void's team is, based on the 5 that we've currently seen.
Absolutely. I think it would be kind of insane if it was like a Skarmory or something, like you're never killing opposing Skarmory. So I for sure expect a Magneton for the extra speed.
Yeah, definitely. It would definitely be a little bit of a weird structure to have Skarmory here. I mean, it would maybe make sense on some like really specific team, but it's definitely not the standard.
Yep. All right, we're going to see what this Tyranitar clicks into the Jirachi that just came in, and it actually doubles to Breloom.
Yeah, that was smart. Void did not want to, let Hippowdon. He wanted to start getting momentum in his favor, and Jirachi kind of covers everything that Ladybug has shown so far. So this was a pretty decent switch to try to start making direct progress on Ladybug's team.
Absolutely. And we're going to see the standard Heatran coming in to bulk out the Jirachi.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Ladybug has shown two fighting resistance, Starmie and Celebi, and T-Tar and Breloom, and DPP teams have steel types on them, so there was definitely going to be at least one steel type in the back for Ladybug here. And Heatran with the fire, water, grass kind of core going on, and Breloom and T-Tar. Heatran is kind of like a very common Loom-Tar pairing, and definitely easy switch into Jirachi, as Heatran is the best Jirachi response in the metagame. And Void, wishes maybe attempting to heal Latias or Clefable or support something coming in with momentum. But Heatran in is pretty uncomfortable. It's going to be kind of tough, especially with Latias and Clefable so low. So Hippowdon is probably the only thing that Void could even switch into this Heatran right now. So just a lot of threats on Ladybug's side. Ladybug seems to have the perfect responses to all of Void's stuff. This is clearly very prepared for the type of team that Void has brought here. So it'll be interesting to see if Void can find his way out of this mess.
Yeah, and the Celebi Breloom core has thrown me off a little bit. So normally when I see Starmie, Breloom, Tyranitar, I'm thinking Zapdos. But I'm not sure if Zapdos is going to be that last from Ladybug. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's definitely possible. I mean, what I would expect looking at this is that maybe he's opted for like a solo steel Heatran team. A little bit more shaky defensively with Heatran as your only steal against something like Metagross. So what would make some sense is maybe for Heatran to be like a Scarf set, Celebi to be Rocks to keep up against Rapid Spin Starmie and whatever other spinner. Then you can have a Zapdos to help answer something like Gyarados or Metagross or some other offensive threats. So that's probably what it's looking like from Ladybug's side. This is might be a Scarf Heatran. So we'll see what he goes for this next turn.
Yep. And it's definitely going to be a tough turn for Void, as he does go to
he's got to go
Hippowdon.
Hippo. Yeah, heal the chip off anyway. Hippos usually run full special defense, so they can survive 2 Fire Blasts from Heatran, and Stealth Rock is a pretty nasty move. I mean, maybe it's Scarf Stealth Rock, but probably unlikely. That Celebi is going to be some other quirky set, and Heatran's probably forced out here. Although it might try to get some damage on Hippo, but I highly doubt it. I mean, he can go to Breloom here. He's got a lot of options.
Yeah, the only reason I could see to stay is if you're really expecting Hippo to click the Stealth Rocks and you want to get like some chip off before you pop out. Or a Shucka Heatran maybe is the only other reason.
If he's trying to wear down the Hippo without having to use his Breloom. But it's probably a Breloom turn here. It's pretty free. Breloom is pretty uncontested against a Hippowdon. Okay, there's the Wisp. That is a very not a super uncommon, but it's not very common to see Will-O-Wisp here. Kind of hard to tell what exactly he's going for, but usually that Will-O-Wisp Tran is burning these grounds like Hippowdon and Swampert and stuff, and pretty interesting to see that option. And clearly Void was not expecting it, but even if he were, I mean, he's got no other response to Heatran at this point anyway, so he had to take the burn. So Hippowdon is permanently crippled here, and Starmie should be able to easily spin on burned Hippo, and this is just looking worse and worse for Void.
Yeah, it's a very methodical game from Ladybug so far. Here comes the Fire Blast as expected.
Yeah, it didn't do very much damage at all. 36 is very low output. Not even Shuckaberry, but he's burned, so that EQ is not doing anything. Probably an explosion last from this Heatran here. Usually these Heatrans are boom. Probably going to try to boom something like Latias to open up Breloom, for example, or Clefable to open up whatever that Celebi is, or Starmie. All these resources poured into breaking a defensive team. So be interesting to see what the last is, and interesting to see if Void can make it out of this, because this is looking bleak. I do not see how Void is going to have many chances to win this whatsoever.
Yeah, me neither. We'll see how it goes. Hippo is broken, which feels... Oh? For a second, I thought it was rest. The animation is the same. I was like, wait, what?
That's impressive that Hippo is still able to heal the Heatran Fire Blast even with being burned. I mean, I guess it's back up, so now he has another defensive response to the Heatran. I mean, so we're gonna see if he's got to go Gliscor or Jirachi here. Probably Jirachi. It's probably going to be more meaningful progress, especially with Heatran chipped so low by that Earthquake. So Jirachi could be a big problem for Ladybug's team. It's looking like Ladybug might have a hard time breaking Jirachi, so that's kind of what Void's current win condition is.
We'll see if he can make it through the Jirachi.
Yeah, and Jirachi's coming in. He is, his best way to make progress. And Superpower Breloom is revealed. That's probably a very attack-invested Breloom in a physically defensive Wish Protect Jirachi. Not Focus Punch Breloom. Superpower is not quite as effective at breaking defensive teams as Focus Punch is, but still, obviously an effective stall-breaking Pokemon with the longevity and sand and not being able to be statused and knocked off and all that kind of stuff with its, recovery. So, he's going to probably be forced out here. I'm assuming Ladybug will go to like Heatran here, maybe try to get off one last Fire Blast or Explosion or something like that on the Hippo. But, maybe he's got a weird last, or, I don't think he'd switch Zapdos in right now, though. So it's probably Heatran coming in, if I were to guess. Oh, wow. Okay.
Magneton.
So this is an interesting last. Yeah, that is exactly what Ladybug wants for this matchup, because now he's going to force a paralysis on Jirachi, which is going to make it significantly hampered as a win condition. Unless he has something like Heal Bell on Clefable, this Jirachi is probably not going to be able to win against this team if it's paralyzed. And clearly, Ladybug did not have a Scarfer. He did not have speed control on this team yet. So he's opted to do a Scarf Magneton, which is a really interesting choice. Magneton wasn't really used in DPP until a couple years ago when Altina brought it against ABR in Classic Playoffs as an alternative to Scarf Magnezone. The appeal is that there are three main Dragon Dance Pokemon in this tier, which are Tyranitar, Gyarados, and Dragonite. And Magneton outspeeds all three of them, and Magnezone does not outspeed a single one of them as a Choice Scarf set. So with Magneton, you have the Choice Scarf to outspeed all three Dragon Dance Pokemon, and you have the ability to trap something like Skarmory and Jirachi and other steel types. So you sacrifice bulk and some power for that crucial speed tier. So it really helps finish out some teams, whereas Magnezone would totally not fit here in the same way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting distinction that they made when they created Zone to drop its speed just a little bit. But I do like that both Magneton and Magnezone are viable in this metagame. It's interesting.
Yeah, some people actually rate Magneton higher than Magnezone because they're like, yeah, it's more relevant to be able to revenge kill the Dragon Dance, dangerous sweepers than it is to have a bit more of that bulk and power. And they're usually positioned very close together on the viability rankings. So it's a really interesting kind of nuanced distinction, and it's pretty cool to kind of decide, like, okay, do I want Magneton or Magnezone on my team? And, especially for these high-level DPP players, a lot of thought goes into it, and clearly we can see why Magneton is the appropriate choice on Ladybug's team over Magnezone. You've got the Tyranitar to trap Latias, and you've got that Heatran with Will-O-Wisp to hit, the physical dragons, and, to take those Draco Meteors and stuff like that. So, it definitely makes a lot of sense what Ladybug is going for. And we see his team, it's a very grounded structure. Usually you don't see these DPP teams with every single Pokemon taking spikes and every single Pokemon, being able to be hit by a ground-type move like Earthquake. But you've got Breloom and Celebi to resist the ground moves. You've got Starmie to spin, Magneton to trap Spikers. So Ladybug is really kind of counting on these Pokemon putting in the work and having the necessary resist to compensate for being so weak to spikes on paper and being weak to, Earthquake maybe, but I guess, Celebi's a really sturdy ground resist and heavily punishing. So clearly, even though Void's got a lot of these ground types here, he's not really able to make progress against Ladybug's grounded team anyway, because he's just got it covered.
Absolutely. I am also very surprised to just see no grounded. It makes sense, especially on this very offensive structure, but it feels unheard of to me. I was definitely expecting a Zapdos. So
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, clearly Ladybug took some sort of risk here. I mean, if he were facing some, offensive Pokemon like a Dragon Dance Gyarados or something like that, I mean, he's relying on Magneton heavily here to revenge kill and force that Gyarados out. Like, he's got a lot of potential holes. If he were to be facing an offensive like Swords Dance Sky Attack Gliscor, like, he would be packed right now. Like, he definitely weak to some, Swords Dance Gliscor or something like that. So if Void had like a more offensive leaning Gliscor setup, then that would have been much more troublesome. But he clearly, is strongly counter-styling this defensive fat team. I mean, he's got everything prepared. It's as if he was expecting this exact bring by Void, like down to a T.
Not a bad bet to make against Void. I mean, Void has always favored those more defensive structures, as we saw last SPL. And then
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, um, the only matchup that I could see being a little troublesome would be the Nido Queen Toxic Spikes kind of structure that Void liked last SPL. But I mean, really, the only Pokemon it truly affects is like Tar or like last Monster Army or Celebi. So maybe that
Yeah,
was.
definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, my bad. I interrupted you. I was going to say maybe definitely the top spikes would be more troublesome for Ladybug's team. He's got 3 Pokemon taking in, and each of them is some sort of crucial stall breaker. But Nidoqueen being a lead, like it's not going to set up toxic spikes on Starmie, so it'd be kind of difficult for Void to, with the kind of teams that he's been using to set those toxic spikes up. And yeah, it makes sense that Ladybug would kind of go for this approach. I mean, definitely is ballsy. It takes guts to kind of bring such a hard counter style, but the context of this game, right? Void being like the 9-0 player. If I just bring something safe, I'm probably better than my opponent, and my opponent has not played for a very long time, might not really bring a very effective team. And usually, when you're facing someone who's not going to really bring a well-built team, the first thing you think of to kind of beat them in the builder is to use something defensive that gives you options in a longer game and gives you longevity. So he definitely was underestimating Ladybug a bit here, and did not expect him to be able to break stall. And Ladybug is like, nope, I got literally every breaker on my team possible, and I've come prepared. So, with the Magneton coming in, I really think that this should really seal the deal, unless a miracle happens, unless he's got like Heal Bell Clefable, because once this Jirachi's paralyzed, I don't really see Void having a strong win condition or any at all. I think that like it would take Ladybug really messing up to lose this game.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind here. So let's see how it goes. We're going to see that Thunder Wave on the Jirachi. It's going to take that full para. Going to heal up off the Wish, but yeah, I mean full paralysis chances as well as just being paralyzed is really tough for this Jirachi. And
he would have loved. Oh, the second para. He would have loved to body slam paralyze that Magneton, but it just didn't happen. And he couldn't body slam that Heat Ran either, which is pretty unfortunate.
Extremely so. And we're going to see the Hippowdon come right back in on the Heatran that it kind of walled earlier. If it does have Boom, that might do something in the long term, but we'll see how that goes. Oh!
Yeah, and because Jirachi... Oh! Good. Because Jirachi couldn't body slam it either, he was able to Fire Blast there, He can even switch out again and bring Heatran back one more time, pressure that Jirachi even more. I mean, those past 3 turns were awful for Void. I mean, he's already on the back foot, and, all this hacks happening is not doing him any favors.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Double para into Fire Blast critting probably one of the better Pokemon left on Void's team to deal with all of these threats. So that has got to be rough. And he does take some time on the clock to think about what his next move is before finally going to Gliscor.
Yeah, I mean, if Void's got a Scarf Magneton, I mean, on one hand, you can be like, oh, why doesn't he just trap the Heatran and get rid of it? But, Ladybug's not looking so great against opposing Magneton either, or Magnezone, because his Tyranitar is worn down, it outspeeds Starmie, hurts Breloom and Heatran. Like, maybe that could, be a potential win condition for Void. It's probably what he's thinking. So instead, he's opting to go to Gliscor to try to, force something to happen, outside of revealing that, and just getting trapped by Ladybug's Magneton, because he's probably going to want to try to find some sort of way to draw out that Magneton, maybe through his Jirachi, which is why it would have been so much better for Void if he were able to get that body slam on Ladybug's Magneton, because if Ladybug's Magneton were paralyzed, then it would make it much harder for him to actually trap or paralyze Voids. So we'll see if that ends up coming into play. I'm just speculating here, but that is probably the reason why Void did not reveal his last and ended up going for Gliscor here.
I would think so as well. This, as an EDV main, Magnetons trapping Magnetons brings my heart some joy. So I hope we see it. I know it's not as common of an occurrence in DPP, so Here we go.
Yeah.
Here comes that Tyranitar, probably just
Oh,
as
he's
a sack.
sacking the Tyranitar thing. Yeah. He doesn't really need it anymore, and it's really crippled. He probably wants to bring in Celebi or maybe his Magneton safely. Or Starmie, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, he's got to sack something now. And Latios is not a great sack because, now Breloom is... you can pause actually here because I was thinking that, here, Void being so behind, he probably just needs to fish for some sort of miss. Like, keeping the Latios sleep sack would have really helped with Breloom. But now he's going to have to, either sleep sack Gliscor, or because Jirachi's paralyzed, he's going to really harp on breaking through every paralysis and using Jirachi as a sleep absorb. I mean, I guess he could have considered to go Clef and fish for a Hydro Pump miss. I mean, if Starmie gets 2 Hydro Pump misses, then Clefable's healing back again, which could be pretty annoying for Ladybug to deal with outside of Breloom. But instead, he probably thought, okay, my Jirachi's paralyzed. I don't need a sleep sack because I can use my Jirachi to respond to Loom, but that's going to get dicey. So it's something he could have considered, but it's kind of hard to find those plays. And I mean, look, he could have just sent Clef in and it dies. So, maybe he's trying to get, heal Clefable with better odds. But, this is all like kind of nitpicking semantics and like thinking about the what ifs, So if he has a Magneton, he's probably got to go to it now, or he's going to send Clefable in to try to heal it. We'll see.
And as you called it, there's the Magneton. A nice double. Ooh, but does...
Oh, that is not a... I mean, Gliscor would have been a more precise if he was going for that, because, Jirachi's not really covering much of anything there. Maybe he wanted to, like, cover Loom or something, but I think Gliscor would have been, the better double there. But still, I mean, your position is so compromised anyway. Maybe he thought Celebi would come in or something like that, so can't really give Void any flack for that, but this is clearly not what he was looking for. So because he didn't go Gliscor here, he's going to have to sack something else.
Yeah, unfortunate, and it is worth noting. I feel like Ladybug was just trying to sack the Heatran to Magneton, right? And then let something else come in, or possibly even counter trap it. So
yeah.
Possibly feels like Ladybug stumbled into this pretty amazing position. Obviously, did really well beforehand to lead up to this, but this specific turn just made... maybe he made the call, but I feel like it was maybe just a sack to allow Magneton to come in and counter trap.
Yeah, that was certainly his idea. He wanted to, sack Heatran so Magneton gets a free entry. He can Thunder Wave, Voids or, whatever hidden power he might have. Probably hidden power Ground or Ice on this team. So he could have just, that was the goal. And, luckily for Ladybug, Void went Jirachi. So now Void's going to have to sacrifice his Clefable, or he's going to have to risk Gliscor. We'll see what he does.
Does sack the Clefable, as you said. We'll see Gliscor probably come into Revenge. Or will he go
Yeah,
Mag?
Definitely.
Oh.
I'm surprised by that.
Because now we're going to see that counter trap.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's not good for Void. He's probably going for some crit or paralysis shenanigans there. And there's the hidden power Ground, I think. I don't think it would be anything else. I don't think it would be Fire, because he needs to outspeed Gyarados. So that's a funny fact that if you use Hidden Power Fire on Magneton instead of Hidden Power Ground or Ice, you're going to speed tie Gyarados because it lowers your speed IV by 1. So usually people opt to use Hidden Power Ice or Ground on Magneton to keep that speed tier in place. So they're going to probably try to compensate for their Mag not having a fire move in some other way. Because like Scarf Magnezone, for example, almost always packs a fire move to trap something like Scizor or Fortress or, just good type coverage. So, he's going to Jirachi now because he can wall out this Magneton. And it's probably going to make more progress still than Gliscor. So honestly, Jirachi is looking kind of tough for Ladybug to take down here. I mean, he's probably going to, it'll still uphill battle for Void because paralyzed. But, Jirachi can theoretically, do pretty decently against Starmie, kind of wall Breloom out, and Magneton's low, so maybe Jirachi can kind of get some magic going here.
It seems like Void's last hope for sure. With Heatran gone, maybe?
Yeah, there's that hidden power ground. And now he just goes for Body Slam here.
Yep, there it is. Gets the para.
Yeah, Ladybug is just going to try to sack this Magneton out, I guess. He probably doesn't think he can get much more use out of it. Probably going to go to Starmie. But that Celebi also has not revealed its set yet, so maybe it's something kooky, and maybe he'll try to use it. What moves has Celebi revealed? Has it even used a move?
It is not.
All right. Very interesting.
Just has...
who knows?
Yeah, just has the nickname, no moves revealed. But we'll see.
Could be with mag support, it could be one of these Nasty Plot Celebis. It's very, very uncommon these days, but it could be like... I know Behe a couple years ago used like Nasty Plot, Psychic, Earth Power, Recover Celebi on one of these like mag balances. And that could definitely beat out these last two from Void, because Psychic can take out Gliscor at +2 pretty easily, and Earth Power would hit Jirachi pretty hard. So that would probably be Ladybug's ticket here, and because he's sacrificing Magneton like this, he probably feels pretty confident that Starmie or Celebi can do the job here against Jirachi. So that's my impression from seeing him sack Magneton.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if it pays off. This Jirachi does. I mean, with the wishes, looks like it will be buckling in for that longer game. Oh,
or maybe Magneton just wins right now with the hidden power ground.
All right, all is even.
Yeah, can crit here and get rid of it, but pretty unlikely.
We'll see another wish go up, and then probably either protect or gets nearly all of its HP back. We'll see another wish go up, and then Jirachi will probably claim the kill on Magneton, and then we'll have to see what Ladybug does in response.
Oh, and he's still wishing just for the safety, so I think we're finally going to see on this turn. Unless Jirachi gets paralyzed. Oh, there's the crit. Okay. And okay, at least the Jirachi came out of that, relatively unscathed. Should be at like 85% health or something like that, or 84. Yeah. Oh no, 85. Okay. Okay, yeah, Starmie in. He's gonna have to get pretty lucky here. He might try to stall out. Oh, the trick. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Jirachi, if he takes that trick, there's no way that Ladybug can. If Jirachi takes that trick, then there's no way Void's going to be able to win. So Void's going to have to go Gliscor on that trick.
Yeah, absolutely. And that does give Ladybug the chance to maybe go to Celebi, or yeah.
Oh yeah. Interesting. So he wanted to position it like that.
Now we'll see if Celebi is HP Ice or Nasty Plot Leaf Storm or something. There's the Nasty Plot.
Outspeeds the Gliscor. That means that Celebi's got more than 280 speed. And Fire Fang, that's a very uncommon move to use for Gliscor. He's using it to cover the fact that Void's Magneton is not packing HP Fire because he wants to cover Scizor with something else because he can't really damage it with any of his other Pokemon. That's a bad sign for Void, though. The game might end right here. If he had Ice Fang and he froze the Celebi, then that could have been something, but nah, Fire Fang's just not going to do it in this position.
Yeah, absolutely not. It is going to be too weak as Celebi sets up Nasty Plot, possibly with Leaf Storm or HP Ice. So
yeah, Leaf Storm, Psychic, HP Ice. Yeah, it's and the miss. Yeah, this is done. This is done. There's no way. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe it's maybe it can't hit Jirachi. I mean, I would just try to save Gliscor at this point. Yeah, okay, that was smart. Save the Gliscor, and hopefully he doesn't have coverage for Jirachi, and he's some like weird. But with that speed investment, it's probably got something in mind here. We'll see if it's. Oh my God! Okay, this has never been seen before. Nasty plot, Earth Power, Hidden Power, Ice Recover. I mean, he's giving up both of his stabs here to have that ground ice coverage, and that is. There's just no way for Void to deal with that with his comp. You know, he's got the Tyranitar to trap the Clefable, which would completely wall this Celebi otherwise. And this Celebi is just looking like it, destroys this kind of fat structure. I mean, you can see how weak Celebi is. I mean, it ×2 special attack. I mean, his Earth Power is not even doing 70%, but like, doesn't even matter. I mean, it's got recovery, it's got status. Can cure its own status by switching out, and it just has the perfect coverage to lock this game. There's no way for Void to do anything here. So this game is over, and that was a really, really impressive, debut back into Smogon tournaments by Ladybug. I mean, this is a player who went 9-0 in SPL, who did not lose a single week last year, and he's starting the tournament 0-1 to one of the lowest ranked players in the pool. Clearly, everyone underestimated. So that was a really interesting game. I feel like, Void probably, I really think he did the best he could. I think he played well for what he had, which was a really bad matchup. But, there was nothing also that really went his way either. Like Ladybug got, 2 paras, from the Jirachi, so he couldn't, initially paralyze that Magneton when he Thunder Waved the Jirachi. And then, he got paralyzed as Heatran came in and gave it way too much momentum. And then the Hippo got crit, which could have set up for some interesting scenarios with, roaring the Celebi out. I doubt HP Ice would have done very much even at ×2 attack. So, I think that this was a combination of Ladybug having really good preparation, having a really strong matchup into Void's team, and Ladybug just had all the little things work for him. He didn't really get unlucky. He hit his Hydro Pumps. He hit his Will-O-Wisp on Hippo. He dodged some paralysis. And, just everything kind of went his way in an already tough matchup for Void. So it was an unfortunate game for Void, but, Ladybug definitely deserved his win here. Played really well. Both of them played really well, but Ladybug just had the better prep, the better matchup. And, yeah, that's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it will be interesting to see how Void adjusts prep in the future games after that loss. Just wondering how he's going to take that loss and what he's going to do to change it. Obviously, you mentioned Osgood at the start of the stream, and it'll be interesting to see how Void and Osgood what they do in the builder and what they cook up to make up for this loss or to learn from it and move forward. So I'm excited to see the rest of Void's games this SPL. Like I mentioned, I'm a pretty big fan of Void. Really, really nice guy. So congratulations to Ladybug for winning, though. Looking forward to seeing both of these battlers actually now.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see if Ladybug can continue having such strong prep. And I think that, for Void, this is probably just a one-off situation. Week 1 is always just awkward. You don't really know where anyone is. And the more data that Void has on these players, the easier his time will be to prepare for them. And, it's just a rough draw for Void week 1, honestly. I think that if Void faced Ladybug later in the tournament, it would have been a completely different match. So definitely looking forward to seeing both of these guys' games. This was some really good Pokemon.
Absolutely. And I'm excited for more DPP games, especially if you're commentating them, Excal. So look forward to seeing you back on the channel.
Yeah, very much appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This has been Gold Mason and Excal watching Ladybug versus Void in SPL Week 1, and we will see you next time on more SPL commentated sets. See you next time.